Can we just go back to where you were dealing with the scene itself, but before that, you are now in the bonded warehouse area. Where was the recipient going to intercept in order to get the drugs?
They would have to have driven it out. So someone would have to have cleared it from the bonded area, loaded it in a truck and driven it out. So we're looking at a clearing agent and a transporter.
And here we're talking about the container and these goods were detained because of the other counterfeit goods from the same shipper.
Correct.
So ideally what was going to happen is that these containers were not going to be detained by SARS. They weren't going to go to the bonded warehouse.
Correct.
Okay. But in the instance of where you're dealing with food, like bone meal, wouldn't that automatically be detained by SARS?
It's actually the Department of Health.
Yes.
Not SARS.
Okay.
It's the Department of Health. The reason being is it's a foreign food coming into our country, and our government needs to know it's not going to be fed to humans. It's bone meal. Funny enough, half of you people eat it anyway. It's used in making processed food, for bulking processed food, pet food, stuff like that. It's sad, but it is. Unscrupulous people do put it in. So it's dumped here as waste, but it carries duty. But because it's a food product and an animal product, the Department of Health must clear it. So they will inspect it, clear it, take a sample, and it is then released by them.
And where would they do their inspection?
As you open the container.
Where?
At the depot.
At CHC?
If it's at CHC, at CHC. If it's at Grindrod, at Grindrod. If it's at Maersk, it's at Maersk. It's done right there. Because the reason being is once that container is open, if there's a disease or something in that container, it's now exposed to the environment. So that if they find a disease substance in there, they must be able to contain it and be able to deal with it there. So that's why they themselves will deal with it right there.
And where does the Department of Health do their checks at CHC?
It'll be wherever their container is loaded.
Okay, so they don't have a special area?
No, it's where those containers come, they will check it.
Now, in the June 2021 bust, are you aware that it was bone meal that was in the legitimate container?
No, I'm aware now.
Okay, so that would have, in any event, been inspected by the Department of Health?
Department of Health, yes.
And they would have presumably found the cocaine amongst that?
Well, the answer is yes. It would have been the poor guy that opened that container from CHC. He would have been the first guy to see it. Then with him would have been the supervisor and the guys from the Department of Health. So the answer is in the end, yes.
So how would the recipient have intercepted on the June 2021 bust? How would they have intercepted to get the drugs undetected?
They would have taken it before it got into CHC.
And where would that have been?
So it could have been when it came off the vessel and put into the container stack alongside Pier 1, Pier 2, or New Pier. It could have been en route from New Pier to the packing area, and it could have been on the road. So again, stevedores, transporter, customs, police.
And
maybe for those of us who are not familiar with the space and goods coming in from a ship, maybe if you could, in some, as best as you can, using language in some graphic detail, explain to us, a ship comes in, this is what happens ordinarily, and all of that process up to when it gets to the depot, just so that we have a mental idea of what you're talking about.
Thank you, Commissioner. So maybe I can illustrate, it's easier. There's a container identified on a ship. The ship comes in, the ship gets allocated a certain loading space, dependent on the depth of that vessel and the size of that vessel. There's also what they call a pre-arrival notice. It's put on an electronic system, we're going to be teaching the smugglers how we're going to find them here, but anyway, we'll just have to change our tactics.
Can be as summarized as possible.
No, it's very easy. The ship comes in, the container has to move. For the container to move, an electronic signal must come from Transnet to release that container onto the ground. The machine comes, picks the container up. Before it touches the ground, a truck gets an instruction, also computerized, to meet it. It goes onto a truck. The truck gets told where to put that container in a stack. The container moves. It's got drugs. What we've experienced, in my experience, is if this container is, if you know Lego bricks, 1, 2, and 3. If you look at a six Lego bricks, it's got 6 dots on the top. Let's look at that in a stack as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. So they get instructions like that, where to put that container. Now the suspects know that. If it is here, they can't touch it. It's too heavy, it's too high, they're too short. They need to move it. So we pick up the irregularities when an unauthorized move puts that from level 2 and 3 on the ground. If it's been moved to the ground without authorization, rip-on, rip-off takes place. I agree with that. But if they fail there, this container must then get moved again out of the controlled area into a processing place where they put it on the transporter's container. That transporter must then drive out of the harbour to a yard where it will be stopped, placed, stored until ready for unpacking, transporting, or whatever its destination is. Highly likely, the moment that truck leaves the control boom by Pier 1 or Pier 2 or New Pier, they will break the seal, take the drugs. Because normal people can have access to that part of the harbour. It's a risk.
Thank you.
That's rip-on, rip-off.
So warrant officer, by the time you get to the depot, that rip-on, rip-off would have failed in transit.
Correct.
Okay. So when you get to the depot, can you still steal without being detected?
You can, but then you need to be part of the depot.
Just explain that.
Well, you would be a staff member, and then you would slowly but surely carry the stuff out of that part of the section. But it would limit you for your access to that side, so it would identify a suspect to us.
And how would somebody other than a civilian, so let's say SAPs, how would they try and steal it?
Drive in when no one's looking, load it in your car and drive out. No one's going to search you.
And on an official basis, so if you, and yeah, I'm not talking about undetected, so if once it's in the depot, how does SAPs get access to it?
The police is allowed to be there. It's part of our duties. If I've got information of the drugs being there's elements in the Criminal Procedure Act, the Drugs and Drug Trafficking Act, the Medicines Control Act. They allow us certain elements there. We can also rely on the Customs and Excise Act, because we can enforce that. So if you're asking how would a policeman go in there and take it and drive out, you could.
As part of a seizure?
I can't comment if I don't have the facts, Commissioner, and it's leading me for a lot of hearsay.
That's fair.
I really don't want to say something that I've got nothing to do with.
That's fair. So in your instance, where in February 2020, we were not talking about a container, it's in the bonded warehouse. You got the information from SARS because of the previous because of the other counterfeit, the containers containing the other counterfeit. And you get the tip off that they suspect that there is, or by the time you get there, have they already found Mandrax?
The original call was there was someone from SARS that was unscrupulous and going to move the tablets.
Okay, so somebody from SARS was going to steal the
Correct.
mandrakes. Okay. And can you then just take us through, I know you've spoken about the scene, you bag it into the exhibit bags, LCRC takes the photographs, what happens next?
From there, it needs to get booked into the SAP-13. So the SAP-13 is relevant to that area, which would have been Isipingo.
That would have been Isipingo Police Station, so
Correct.
you and your team, you take the drugs in your vehicle, or how does it
I
get
did pack them
transported?
in my caddy. We loaded in a caddy, and then we drove under escort to Isipingo Police Station. We did get there. Sorry, Commissioner, must I carry on?
Yes, please go ahead.
We got to Isipingo. I believe I liaised with the station commander. They said they didn't have safe space in their SAP-13 room. Eventually, some form of agreement was made because they showed me the armory. But it did have weapons and articles in it. And I said, please, let me move the stuff for you. And myself and members from Metro, we then literally manhandled all the gun racks and the rifles and everything into the area. And that gave us space to store the Mandrax tablets inside there. And that's why it is signed for by the exhibit clerk at Isipingo, because he took custody of it.
So are you saying there's no dedicated storage at Isipingo for drugs? You had to use the storage for the armory for that purpose?
No, Commissioner. There is no such thing as a dedicated storage for drugs at a police station. It's a general exhibit storage room. Whether it is safes or a vault or an office or a cell, the items are catalogued and stored as per case, not as per the item. So it is a mixed match of all exhibits, if Commissioner understands that.
But my concern is you needed to move something out to make space for the drugs. So, and that suggests to me that then there is never space for drugs to be stored. The only way you can make space is if you move what is already there to make space for the drugs.
Commissioner, can I say this, if I may? To say that there's no space for drugs would be incorrect. But to say for large-scale seizures, we battle every day. Copper, diesel, illicit diesel. I've got no space to store. Too late now. I've got no place to store it. I rely on SARS for storing it.
Warrant officer, the guns, the armory, and
They stay
other
there.
things, those are always there, right?
Yes. So Commissioner, those guns did not leave that room. We just moved them and pushed them to the sides to make space so we could put our drugs inside there. The same at Maiden Wharf. Maiden Wharf did us the same courtesy. We move everything and we make space for the exhibits to be stored there.
Is it a case of what you're explaining, that there is no, in any police station, there's nothing like a dedicated exhibit room? Is that what you're saying?
No, Commissioner, that's incorrect. There are dedicated exhibit rooms.
Yes.
There's some beautiful, massive structures at some of our police stations.
Yes.
What I'm saying is there's no specific room to deal with chemicals, flammable substances, hazardous materials, and narcotic substances.
I see, I understand.
Thank you. Can we go to page 267 of the exhibit bundle? Can you just identify that document for us?
(267).
Yes.
It is a hand entry by myself. It is Isipingo SAP-13 163, and it is an entry by myself booking the exhibits in their exhibit bags at Isipingo.
And you're writing out every single exhibit bag?
Yes, Commissioner, with this pen.
And what is the role of the exhibit clerk in this process?
The exhibit clerk is going to take custody of those exhibits until they need to be analyzed, processed, or the end of it. So he is the custodian once I've handed them over to him.
And can you just explain the significance of the description that you use for the exhibits? You specifically say sealed exhibit bag, there's a serial number, and then you say what it contains. Why is that important?
This description comes with the forensic seal on the scene. So it shows that I have not tampered with my seal from CHC. So I have my contemporaneous notes, I have my LCRC member taking photographs of the same process, and I say here, can I read it? So
Yes, you can read one here.
So entry 1, sealed exhibit bag. It's Papa Alpha 3000 286215. These are unique numbers. They don't exist anywhere else but on one exhibit bag. Each exhibit bag is unique. It has a barcode, so you can scan it, as well as you can handwrite it. But each bag only exists once in its lifetime, so it's unique. It contains 2 packets with Mandrax tablets. Okay, I should have written suspected Mandrax tablets. But it is the description, and it shows the continuation from the crime scene, and it will show the continuation to the laboratory. So it gives me a quantum and how it's packaged.
Now, in your statement, you say that you then booked it out the next day for analysis.
That's correct, Commissioner.
What was the reason for booking it out?
Commissioner, I received a phone call. I cannot tell you who called me, but it wouldn't have been the station. I wouldn't have taken instruction from the station. It would have been from my management, someone senior. There wasn't an issue at the station. They said their drugs need to go to the lab, people are sick. And I went there myself. And yes, the place, as I explained to you, it was cordoned off. It did stink.
Now, with FSL, do you have to contact them ahead of time to tell them that you're bringing the exhibits to them, or do you just rock up there?
If I'm bringing exhibits for analysis, I can rock up there. It was a Amanzimtoti. They were our service provider. But in this case, when I did rock up there, they said, sorry, there's way too much exhibits to fit in our safe. It won't fit. And now I'm stuck with a problem, because I know the police station is closed and everyone's booked off sick. They won't want me back. Where must I take the exhibits? And I believe there was quite a few phone calls made, and eventually, at that stage, I believe it was Brigadier Paramusa and it was Captain Banzi that allowed the authorization of using a part of their vault at Durban Central to store those exhibits. So from Amanzimtoti, we then transported them and they were stored at Durban Central.
Okay. Now, when you book it out for analysis, the intention is to take it to FSL, because only FSL can do the analysis, correct? And the SAP clerk would have countersigned that you're booking it out for analysis. You ultimately don't take it to FSL for analysis because they don't have space, correct?
Correct.
And now it's going to another police station.
Correct.
Isn't there a step missing insofar as the transfer from one police station to another? Because as far as the exhibit clerk at Isipingo is concerned, you've booked it out for analysis. You've attempted to take it to analysis, it hasn't. What steps must you take to rectify the entry with the SAP clerk at Isipingo?
So technically, because I've booked it out at Isipingo, that entry is closed. They won't be worried about that matter anymore. It's now, I've taken responsibility with it, I must deal with it. So me as the warrant officer must now deal with that problem. So the step that I take is now, it's booked in at Durban Central. It went into their books now. So I will then now have to do a chain statement saying I transported all the way and booked in, and I confirm these are the bags booked in, they haven't changed.
But is there a process that is followed? Is there a protocol from transferring exhibits from one police station to another? Or can you just sign it out at the one police station, even if the reason for the signing out is not the correct reason? It may have been at the time when you did it, because you didn't know FSL was going to reject you.
Commissioner, I cannot say there is a protocol, or I'd rather say I'm not aware of a set protocol when transferring exhibits between stations of correspondence. In my inquiry, I've documented what I've done. My seniors were aware of what I've done. They were aware of where it was. The next issue actually existed was trying to get those exhibits analyzed because of such a large quantity. And then eventually that led to us, without going for, it was sent for destruction. And that was, again, another issue.
I just need to clarify something. When you book out exhibits from an SAP 13 at a police station and you want to take them to FSL for analysis, why is storage an issue if you are only taking a sample and not the entire set of exhibits, for lack of a better term? I mean, my understanding is that they go to FSL to identify what the substance is for analysis.
Correct,
so you don't need to take 1,000 kilograms of cocaine to FSL. You only need to take a sample. How does it work exactly?
No, that's incorrect.
And why is storage an issue at FSL?
Sorry, Commissioner, that's incorrect. I can say from my personal experience, I've never taken a sample.
Take the whole thing?
The whole thing. Start to finish.
Isn't that a problem? Because if FSL does not have capacity to store everything, then even the exercise of trying to get the exhibits analyzed fails simply because they say we cannot take everything.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So is that a shortcoming in the process that needs to be attended to?
Commissioner, it's ongoing. And you've got it, I cannot say 100%, 220%.
And I was just trying to understand. I wasn't, because I don't know, but it
Commissioner,
seemed
you've
to
got
me
it.
that there was a problem there.
You've got it 100%. Sorry, Commissioner.
What was the storage capacity, do you know, at Amanzim Toti before flood damage? Because from previous evidence, my understanding is that they got into problems after there were floods. That is with regard to storage.
Commissioner, I have been there before the floods. I have been there after the floods. I am aware of what their facility looks like. I'm aware of how it works. It is not conducive to the storage of large amounts of narcotics or precursor chemicals, because that's another item that goes to the lab, precursors. And the precursors usually weigh a lot. And they are very voluminous.
I forget the context now. Maybe my co-commissioners and even the evidence leaders may assist. I seem to recall that in the context of one of the drug busts, a police officer testified that they took only a sample to FSL. I don't know how many bricks or what, in what form exactly the sample was. What would your comment be?
Not on my crime scene, Commissioner.
But besides your crime scenes, how would you comment on that being done or having been done?
It should not have been done.
Correct me if I misunderstood the evidence. I thought, in fact, the national instruction requires that within 7 days, or maximum 7 days, all of those exhibits must go to FSL. Anyway.
Commissioner, I'm not in a space to challenge a national instruction.
No, I'm asking whether, is there such a national instruction, or did I misunderstand?
There is, Commissioner.
Okay.
But I'm a junior member. What I can say is we do our utmost to comply. Just to give you an idea, if I've got a ton of narcotics, there's very few vehicles you can put a ton in. Then I need to take a team to escort me. I then need to have accommodation for those members, going there, coming back. They must get paid. That paperwork takes some time. So when you've done that paperwork, you are past your 7 days. So, and maybe with the grace of the Commission they will streamline certain processes. But when you have seizures like this, there's always, we can talk back and we can say we learned. I need 10 members to do the armed escort, but we don't have 10 members at DPCI. But these are all that have to be documented and authorized by senior members. But it must be done.
I guess the essence of what I was checking with you is it's not an option available to SAP 13, whoever's holding his custody, to take only a sample to FSL and retain the balance. That was the heart of it. It was, anyway, everything must go to FSL.
Commissioner, if I may. The South American drug cartels, they're brilliant businessmen. We give them that. They have an honor in their institution to produce good cocaine. But let's just say the transporter or the facilitator on the deal is not onerous. So I'm commenting on a case of, let's call it 999 bricks. That's my knowledge. Those bricks don't come from one supplier. They come from various